Word to this computer. Sweet. So we should be up and running.
Cool.
I know I said it before, but hanging out for a little bit. Just want to say thanks again, man, for coming on. There's a lot of interest. I'm not going to say, that this won't get big. I'm not going to say that I might not steal some of these little tidbits, throw it in and make a name for yourself for you
Yeah,
here. But
sure, yeah.
so yeah, here with Chris, I've got, a few questions here that I tried to organize the best of my ability. I did get them to you, in advance, but honestly, first things first, I didn't include this on here, so hopefully I'm not totally throwing you off. But tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're at, where you're from.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, my name is Chris. I am 27 years old. I live in Flint, Michigan, with my partners and our two cats. Originally, I'm from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I relocated to Michigan, originally the Lansing area, because home got way too expensive. And I wanted to buy a house, and that was not feasible on local wages. And I wanted to be in a place where it was. So within like a 2 or 3 month time frame, back in 2021, we practically picked up all of our stuff and relocated to a very small town outside of Lansing and picked up a fixer upper in a little downtown area. And honestly, we didn't expect to get into investing. We didn't expect to hold any properties or like anything like that. We just wanted a house, and we got one. I mean, like, and honestly, the amount of work that went into that first home for us really set the framework for what we're doing now. Our first home was ended up being a flip. A lot of value add there. Gosh, I don't know what we didn't do on that place. We added central air. We replaced the furnace. We replaced flooring. We ended up remodeling the kitchen, the bathroom, even the exterior. We painted it, and built that into the loan, actually. And I'll get more into that kind of stuff later. Um, and ended up creating a substantial amount of equity that I didn't want to leave on the table. And after speaking to the realtor I was working with at the time, after watching Bargain Block based out of Detroit, I watched their first season. Um, and I was like, we can totally do that. I was like, we just did it on this house. Why don't we do it again? So, but the problem was at the time, I made $40,000 a year working full time. And I was like, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to do that. I don't make enough money for that. Well, turns out there's loans for that and ways to leverage other people's money to do what you need to do. So, about a year and a half, 2 years into owning that first primary, we purchased our second, which was a little little bungalow house in downtown Lansing. I got it at the time. I think it was sub 40K, and it needed pretty much everything. And it ended up, to be honest, it took everything to get through that first project. What I was able to do was I ended up taking out a home equity line of credit on my primary at the time to be able to pay for practically everything on that second property. And I didn't know what we were doing with it. I just knew I wanted another house. Um, it ended up becoming a rental because at the time, my partner and I were like, well, you know, there's no point in selling it this quickly. Let's see what we can do. So we had literally people pulling up off the side of the street asking us what we were doing with this house, and we ended up renting it, and it's been actually a very solid unit for the last God, we've got that in 2023, I believe, and it's been solid ever since. And as soon as we finished that, I remember going back home after we handed our keys over to the tenants and sitting in the living room. I was like, "Well, we're doing that again." So on to number three. Um, Eventually, we started looking for deals that weren't obviously. I was like, this model is not sustainable for us personally, right? I was like, I can't keep finding homes for the price bracket I needed to be able to get into them and do what I needed to do to be able to even like refinance them again. So I ended up refinancing on that home and started looking in other markets. And this was only because a friend of ours was like, "Hey, if you have another house, we want to rent it." Because the first one was cute and they asked us if it was available and we were like, "Well, it's not, but yeah, we'll do it again and we'll hold again just for fun. Why not?" So, but I was like, "Where can we afford one?" It wasn't Lansing, unfortunately, definitely not Grand Rapids. So, here we are in Flint. We purchased our what I consider to be like the first big rehab that we did. It was a fire damaged 2 bed, 1 bath, 700 square foot bungalow on in East Side Flint. And just to share a little bit of numbers, the purchase price was $10,000. We probably put, I want to say, 30, 35 into it. Um, ARV, after I finally refinanced it, was 78,000 for the appraisal, which, if you're familiar with Eastside Flint, that's pretty strong, especially for a year and a half ago. So, um, my issue is I'm not good at stopping things in the middle of that project. The house across the street, which I didn't even know was a house because there was so many trees in front of it. Um, I saw that one and I was like, oh, I wonder how much that house is. And I couldn't find its owner. So I went scrubbing through property records and realized it was a county owned or city owned like foreclosure property that no one has lived in since I think that house was like 2014. So I was like, well, now we need that one too. Like like I can't just stop. So we got that one too, which took a little bit of navigating, and we're in the middle of that renovation right now. Um, the three that I hold are my old primary as a rental, and the one in Lansing as a rental, and that first flip here in Flint. I ended up acquiring a couple of more foreclosure properties, pretty much on the same street, to finish fixing up. I'm hoping through this year we'll be able to finish all three, which is definitely being adventurous, but it certainly is. It's doable so long as it, you know, how the
You
numbers
got
work out.
time. You got 6 months.
Yeah, sorry, that was a
No,
really
you're
long
good.
introduction to. Hey, I'm Chris. Nice to meet you.
Hey, I'm Chris. Nice to know, dude. That was great. I mean, and it's good because you touched on a lot of the stuff that we're gonna dive into a little bit as well. Just kind of quick little think about me. So oddly enough, I think Chris and I we met off of what was it, the Burr Invest Facebook
Yes.
page? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Burr is buy, renovate, rent, refinance, reinvest,
Yep.
right? I believe I got that in the right order.
Yep.
And so he's like, "Hey, can anybody in Michigan help me out with this?" He reached out, or I think I commented on it. He reached out. We kind of got to talking back and forth. I will tell you guys that when you guys do, if this is something you guys are interested in doing and getting into flipping homes, make sure you have a good CPA. Chris does. He's done his stuff right. Um, on the lending side, I may make few recommendations, but technically speaking, he's doing everything very well on that side of things. And there's a lot of hoops to jump through with rentals. So definitely make sure you guys have a good CPA. But yeah, I was able to get, he talked about doing a HELOC, pulling money out to put into a new house. And so that's actually what he was looking to do. And just so happened I had something that was a little bit more flexible. He's talked about using some other people's money, which we'll dig into a little bit. But I've got shoot, offhand, two for sure, potentially three loans where, Chris talked about, hey, the, I want to build the repairs into the purchase, into the value of the home, or to the loan, not necessarily into the purchase, right? And so, Chris, I'm gonna take a stab in the dark here. I'm guessing the first couple you did were you using the FHA 203K loan?
No, actually, the first couple ones I did not. The first home that we had purchased to rehab, I actually opened a HELOC on that first primary that I owned. I only got about, well, I think it was like, it had to be sub 50 grand. So I managed to purchase and rehab for sub 50 grand. I had to make it work. So I was like, I'm not coming out of pocket
Yeah,
um, for any of this. So we had to make it work off that first one. The second, once that one was finished, we ended up just doing a traditional cash out refinance
yeah,
versus the HELOC, which ended up being it was a 20-year, some form of 20-year conventional product. It wasn't a traditional 30.
yeah,
I don't know exactly what that product is, if it's just a normal conventional loan with different terms,
yeah.
um, but yeah, no, that model can be very rewarding if you navigate it correctly and figure out how to utilize the loan you're given,
Yeah.
essentially, not overextend yourself, so long as it's the right deal.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, right? It's not overextending yourself. And I see a lot of people that love the idea, and it's hard because it's like, hey, I love the idea. If this were my house, I would do ABC, right? But hey, it's not going to be your house. Like that's the other
Right.
part of it. No need to overextend yourself if you're not planning on living there.
It's very
Um,
hard, and especially, I mean, because there's so many factors that go into a purchase, and you really have to come up with a game plan for what you want to do with that property before you even start. I mean, like, depending on what your end goal is, a lot of people just want to flip, and that's great. Me personally, I'm more in for long haul. So um mine are probably all going to be rentals. I mean, I want to do a flip here and there. I've never done one in terms of selling, um, just to gain more capital. But um, like a great example, like at the beginning of a project, you really have to scope what you're putting into it, how much money you're going to be spending, and sometimes if it's a flip, if you're going to put in more luxury finishes, budget for it. If you can get the value add out of it, if you think you're in a strong neighborhood that has the right, if you can list it and make your money back and then some, perfect. But if you're going to hold, like, you have to just appropriately spend your cash so you can just get on to the next deal. In
Renters aren't
For me,
perfect. They,
right,
they don't care. It's not theirs, you know?
right. Well, and
Yeah.
a lot of
So,
time there's just not even like putting in what it really comes down to, at least from my perspective, putting in a $600 vanity versus a $200 vanity that you can fix up and put some new knobs on and give it the appearance that it's a little nicer than builder's grade. There's not gonna you're not getting a percentage more for rent
right.
off of that $600 vanity,
Yeah.
and which sounds like a silly comparison or a silly point, but that stuff adds up
Oh,
very
yeah. You
quickly.
compound it to everything that you're looking at doing.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, a few $100 here, a few hundred there, you're thousands in to
Yeah.
finishes, and that makes or breaks your deal at the end
Yeah.
of the day.
Yeah. So one of the questions that a lot of people had, right? And truthfully, right? I mean, obviously I'm working with a lot of agents, so this is a big question for agents.
Hmm.
Part of it is because they may want to earn your business too. But
Sure.
where are you sourcing your just off market opportunities, right? So kind of told us the story. You bought that one house for 10 grand. Was that an off
Mhm.
market deal or was that actually on market?
That one was actually on the market. It was on MLS. Um, m- every home we've purchased has never been anything hot on the market. Um, we have targeted things that other people don't want, and create value out of them. Um, a big, literally my entire portfolio here in Flint has been distressed properties that it seems like people have seemingly forgotten about. No one's lived in them for years. Our one, actually, I just picked up a 4-bed, 2-bath last year that I finally did a walkthrough on. Utilities have not been turned on since 2012. It's just been sitting, and
Wow.
yeah, and it's crazy how many are really out there. Places are just sitting. Homes are ready to be rehabbed, but they're not on the market. You wouldn't know unless you have to just learn how to do a little bit of research and figure out who's holding it. I mean, shoot, you can get creative on that front too. If you see a house that looks like it would have a little bit of value, log into a parcel viewer, dig through your city records, figure out who's holding it. Hell, there's one down the street from me that no one's lived in years. There was a fire in the back, as from what I understand from the neighbors. No one's lived in that one since I think 2019. Um, excuse me. The mailing address goes to someone else in Flint. What's stopping me from just sending them a letter and saying, "Hey, I want to buy your house"?
Yeah. So how are you finding that stuff? It just so happens you drove by it. Like
Yeah.
this one, it's in the neighborhood. One was
Yep.
across the street, the off market stuff.
Yeah.
You just
Literally
happen to drive by.
every single house in Flint we have, except for that one I found on the MLS, was found just from looking around and doing a little bit of research, and being a little strategic on how you do it. Thankfully, the house across the street was literally there. I didn't really
Yeah,
have to
that's
do
sheer
like
luck.
a lot of searching for it. And thankfully, that house, I'm very proud of that one because it's was the worst house on the street. The whole block is clean now. Now that this place is like, before it was like it looked like a war zone. Just with that particular house and the house that burnt, we have both of them fixed now. So now
Yeah.
it, and how I look at it from an investor perspective too, I guess, is you're really stabilizing your neighborhood. You're stabilizing your investment by me grabbing that house across the street. You know, that's, at least
Yeah.
that's how I see it. I don't know. A lot of people don't see. I feel like a lot of people don't see a lot of value in grabbing up extremely distressed properties. So like they're very quick to dismiss them. But so long as you have a game plan in place and like figure them out, I don't know. I mean, like, you're doing, in my opinion, you're doing something great. I mean, you're helping the housing crisis. What's that going to be, an empty lot
Yeah.
in the city of Flint that's doing absolutely nothing?
Yeah. And there's
You
like,
know?
especially here in Grand Rapids and West Michigan, there's such a housing shortage, but who knows what's out there? I mean, truthfully, I haven't looked,
Yeah,
and it's not something I've thought about like, hey, like I know I've driven past homes and I'm like, I don't think anyone lives there. I've never thought to actually check,
yeah.
like you said.
It's insane how many are just like sitting and just like literally nothing happening to them. And a lot of times, I mean, it requires just someone asking. Which,
Yeah.
Can I ask a question on that, Chris? Like,
yeah,
so I am a realtor here in West Michigan, and I one of the things I'm trying to do is look for my son who is single, and you really can't afford a home if you're single anymore if you
sure,
don't make a lot of money.
true.
And so we look at some of the homes that are less desirable, but I don't know enough to know, how do you know when it's like this is something worth, like, do you do an inspection on it yourself, or do you have some come look at, just say like, oh, this is going to need a lot of cosmetic work, or this is something that's going to need like massive foundation work? And that's
Yeah,
like, I think our fear, like, how do you know, like, we're going to open up a money pit, or are we just, trying to make things look good? That's, I think, my fear as a realtor, knowing inspection and all of that. Like, sometimes you look
sure.
and it's like, this is already overpriced, I feel, and now we're going to go way over because of probably the work involved.
That's the hard part. Thankfully, I'll be extremely honest. In Flint, I don't have that issue because the
Yeah.
purchase prices are not overly inflated. But I will say I have gone into all of these expecting to rehaul every single major utility in the house.
Okay.
They have all needed new service lines from the street that require a 3-part inspection with a reconnection from Consumers Energy. One needs bracing in the basement. It's like, the hard part for me at the beginning was figuring out what those big things are in the house. And so now I just have the mindset now. I'm just like, it's probably going to need to be replaced. If it's an old house,
Hmm.
it's going to need to go. I and I'm curious too on a since you're a realtor, how do you feel about? I know a lot of people go into investing and throw a ton of lowball offers out, especially in highly competitive markets. Do you see a lot of success with that over there, or is it
No.
does that ever work? I feel like it doesn't.
I'll be honest, I am relatively new, so this is kind of all new for me.
Sure.
But right now it's very interesting. Homes I are so to me seem like they're so overpriced, and then people are spending even more because there's so
Right.
many bidding wars, or people have lost out on so many homes that then they're just like, I want this house. I'm just gonna throw the book at it, you know?
Right.
And so but then I've looked at homes that are currently on the market and I was like, okay, this is a flip. I recognize the realtors' names, and I'm like, they work with a holding company, they're flipping these houses. How did they flip it? How did they get that? And now it's for sale. And I'm like, they have the same carpet, the same paint, the same address. Like I'm like, I see this and I'm like, oh, they got it off market. They
Yep.
got that for a good price. And I'm like, how did they get to there? And then did they only fix the cosmetic stuff? Like trying to figure that part out, because
Yeah.
some of them I'm like, how did they get that so cheap? Because there's other homes that are literally a gut job, you can tell. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you're sitting at 180,000. I'm like, you're probably gonna have to put 100K in this house just to make it livable, and that's not even to make it look pretty. So yeah, I guess like that's the hardest. Yeah, homes are, yeah, I think I haven't seen low balls on anything unless they're finding them off market.
A lot of
So
it, yeah, I was gonna say I can touch on it a little bit because I do work with a lot of agents, right? And there is, kind of like you said, Stacy, right? There's the agents that are, putting it basically into a holding company. There's the wholesalers out there that
Mm-hmm.
basically go in and they're like, hey, listen, I'll pay for your house in cash. They've got an investor who will pay them in cash, they go up, they list it. But then there's a surprising number of investors, not just here in Grand Rapids. But I mean, I've talked with people from Chicago, I've talked with people from Los Angeles. I mean, like all over the country because Grand Rapids is growing at such an impressive pace and home values are holding steady and growing more than the rest of the country, just in general, that there's a lot of investors out there that are willing to pay cash, that are willing to put the money into it. I'm actually working with one guy right now. He's getting a mortgage on one, and he knows I think he's buying it for 310. I want to say, he knows right now it's worth about 360, and he knows he's got to put about 30 grand into it. So he figures he's got about 20,000 worth of equity after he puts his facelift on it, but where he's coming from is he's getting a deal on a house that he's also an agent, right? So he doesn't have to do realtor fees, um, at least on his half of things. So he can get the house for a little bit cheaper. It was off market. Somebody else in the office was like, hey, these guys got to move quick. They want to move quick. They don't want to have to deal with this, that, the other thing. Do you have anyone looking? Um, and for him, by the time he sells it, even paying 3% to the buyer's agent, he's like, there's not enough room for me to go in here, put a facelift on it, and sell it. But he's like, dude, in 3 to 5 years in this neighborhood with the growth that it's having, even though it's valued right around 360 right now, 3 to 5 years, this is could very well be a $400,000 house.
yeah.
And so I think that's one cool thing that Chris, right? He's flipping them. There's a lot of people that flip and sell, but I love, 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 love that Chris is flipping and holding because there's a ton of ways to make money in real estate. You can flip and you can sell, and you've got the concern of capital gains. You've got the concern. There's oh gosh, I can't think of the terminology of it. There's a tax term for it, right? Where you have to try to buy a house within a certain amount of time frame. Um,
Yeah. And what is that? 1098 exchange.
Yes, thank you. That's the word. Yep. So like, yes, you can flip, but then you got those issues, right? If you flip and hold, you have the concern about tenants, and it's kind of weighing those options. But one of the best ways to make money in real estate for anybody that owns a home and has owned a home for at least 2 years is that hold option. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, Chris, the first home you bought, how much do you have into it, and what do you think it's worth?
I probably have altogether maybe 85, 90.
Yeah,
Um, it's worth market value probably right now is 195.
yeah. I
And
mean,
that's since 2021.
yeah. I mean, $100,000 in 5 years.
Yeah.
Your 401k can't do that.
Yeah.
Like,
And I will say too, like it's hard for me to weigh in on the like purchase and flip only because I for what I do personally and what works for me, I'm less concerned about the end number being super high for to me to make a profit because I'm more focused on cash flow and more what I can do to create value to make it a rental, if that makes sense.
yeah,
Um, like to put in perspective, like my biggest deal is making sure that I can refinance and get out of it and move on to the next one versus like flip and try to make all my money back and then profit within like probably what a 4 6 month period
yeah.
max.
Because I
Otherwise, you're
think,
whole.
yeah, I think you have 100. No, not even. I think you have like 60 days to find a property, maybe 90
Mhm.
days to identify the property. 180 days to, so basically, yeah, 6 months. You have to have found it in 2 or 3 months. Then within 6 months, you have to have rolled that money over.
Yeah,
And the IRS considers it a like kind exchange. So if you bought a house for 150, you sold it for 200, now you have to find another house in that same value. You can't jump
yep,
from 150 to a $250,000 house or a $300,000 house. So, especially here in Grand Rapids, and I think, a lot of places that you are finding these more distressed homes, you're going to struggle, right? And that's why Chris, I believe, is holding them. You're going to struggle to be able to find something of equal value. It's similar or less is what they consider. You're going to struggle to find that and continue to be profitable. Whereas,
right.
like Chris said, with the cash flow, I mean, my parents are doing just like what you said, Chris, right? My dad actually, he worked for Gerber Baby Food, for gosh, forever. And he cashed out his 401k when after he started, like they did a couple deals in real estate.
Hmm.
He cashed out his 401k and he's like, dude, this is great. Like I made more money. He's like, I made more money in 2 years than I did in 10 putting my own money into my 401k.
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah,
and the hold is there. I mean, like you said, that first one, you've got $100,000 worth of equity in
yeah. And I will
it.
say, to weigh in a little bit on Stacey, I know you mentioned that how they're getting them so cheap. I think from what I've noticed and from personal experience, a lot of the bigger companies that are doing flips right now have they're getting very aggressive with how they will find deals. They I'm pretty sure now they're pulling like county data and hiring people like virtual assistants to go down call lists to call like 100 to 150 leads a day of just random people, and they call me like, "Hey, are you interested in selling?" And they're like, "No." Okay, and then they move on. And I only know that because in the last 3 weeks, I've probably had 6 calls on the house that I'm working on down the street from seemingly random people, but they're working for companies who want to get them distressed and for hopefully for cheap because they're hoping to find that one person that's like, oh yeah, my grandma just passed away. I'm in charge of this house. I don't want it. Please take it for whatever you offer. And I mean, clearly it works. I like if they're putting the effort into it, but that's I
I
think a
need
big.
that, but I don't want to do that.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's yeah. I'll be honest. It seems like for what I need out of a what if it's hit the MLS, it probably doesn't work for me. It's like
It's
for
too late. Yeah, it's
yeah,
too late for
yeah,
you. I get that. I guess that's something I can start digging into, like how you said, like obviously I know the Flint area, so not really well, but
right.
driving through and growing up on the east side of the state. But Yeah, so you're in like kind of in a completely different tax bracket right now, I believe, with what the homes that you're looking at compared to here in Grand Rapids right now. But I'm sure there's
Yeah.
homes that are like that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If you,
Right.
especially if you look at the right neighborhood, I mean, you can just drive through and tell. I mean, I feel like everywhere around here, there's every neighborhood has at least one.
Hmm.
Like it, so, and they're not hard to spot. Um, and thankful, I mean, like, shoot, probably not there, but the Genesee County Land Bank, the Ingham County, I can't remember if Lansing operates their own or if it's Ingham County. I think it's Ingham County. They're very good at what they do. Um, they are more than willing to be competitive on lots, on homes that are sitting, and that a lot of people villainize land banks and government um, structures that are holding the homes because they, think that they're in disrepair. They want them to go to people to fix them up and get them back on the tax bracket. That's their goal. They don't want to hold them.
Yeah.
Is no interest to them to hold them. But I mean, they could with the resources they have. They can only do so much. So I feel like it's up to people like me and other people want to get people like you looking for places that might be held by your city or held by whoever. Make them an offer, take it off their
I was
hands
gonna
and
say,
fix
is
it.
that have you offered lower than what like have you just made an offer or is like does if you contact them they'll say like we're getting rid of this property for 50K or whatever. Have you offered lower or
So the last four properties I've purchased weren't even technically for sale.
okay.
It's I have just written and it goes from there. Um, so the last, I want to say three were actually from directly from the land bank here in Genesee County. Extremely easy process. And like I said, people like to, assume a lot of things about how that process goes and what they expect them to do to the properties. But I mean, when you're buying one that's been empty since 2012, it's I mean you got to know that like you're getting a house with a lot of hurdles. I mean shoot, you can get them for like probably now you can probably get them for $1,000 around here
Um,
still. But I mean you're gonna be putting everything into it.
right.
So
And is
it's
it
like
cash only? Do you have to
what's
pay
that?
cash for those
Yes.
land bank?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
Yeah.
thought. Okay.
Yeah. Typically anything that's like typically anything, and Mike, you can weigh into this too. Typically anything that's going to be like a real like fixer upper that's not like paint or floors, like it's going to be hard to get a loan on it unless you're going through a specific program like an FHA 203K. Great
Hmm.
option for a fix and flip, or a lot of people will utilize hard money. I personally have never tried it, but people have a lot of success with that. Or utilizing HELOCs on existing collateral
Okay.
to
Yeah.
just go ahead and grab those.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one I would say is you like and that's hard, right? If you don't currently own a home. So like Stacy with your situation, that FHA 203K loan is a great option because the goal is to turn that into a primary residence.
Yeah.
Now, talking about, you'd mentioned a couple times, Chris, other people's money, right? Or hard money.
Yep.
We actually do have investors here at Supreme that offer hard money loans if you're looking to turn it specifically into an investment property. And so what's interesting is for them, they just want to make sure that the numbers work, right? They want to make sure that the numbers work. And so Stacy was to go and try to buy an investment property. They don't want her to go under because then who's the first person they're not going to pay? The lender, you know. So they want to make sure that the numbers work, the numbers make sense. And so there are definitely options out there that don't even have to be private party hard money lenders. Other people's money type deal. So there's definitely options that FHA 203K conventional has a home style renovation loan as well.
Yep.
So a couple different options out there. I'm happy to share any of that information with you, Stacy, or whoever. Just drop me a
Awesome.
line.
Okay.
So next question, I don't, try to kind of rush through some of these here. and you kind of touched on this a little bit, right? Because you sounds like you
I was
pretty
gonna say I'm like I feel like sometimes I'm like the hardest person to talk to because I bounce around like
well, and it's great because like it
crazy.
makes the conversation flow easy, right? It's like you've touched on a couple of these. I just want to make sure that I ask them real clear, right, for
Sure.
people. So in this one, I laugh at a little bit just because you're like, yeah, dude, like I just kind of buy the house and go from there. But
Yeah.
if if you had this like crazy mindset of you're shopping for a house, you were able to walk through it, you're able to all do all of that.
Mhm.
How can you tell a home is worth flipping?
Like I said, the ones that we have here, look around, get out of your car, walk. How do you feel? I
Yeah,
honestly, I feel like, and that sounds so biased because of where I live. Um, but if you see people taking care of their lawns, having a sense of ownership in their neighborhood, taking care of their house, even just outside, even if they're just hanging out outside, yeah, it's worth it.
yeah,
Because at least for me, because
yeah,
I know that I'm gonna have no problems renting this thing once it's done.
yeah. If you
People
get
are
the right
attra-
price for it, it's
Yep,
worth it.
people are attracted to. I mean, people are attracted to nice places, and obviously it takes. I mean, it really. I'm trying to think of the right phrase. Maybe not. It takes a village, but it takes
A neighborhood.
people to. Yeah, it literally. Yeah,
Yeah,
it takes a neighborhood to make a deal, especially when especially if you're looking to hold and flip too. I mean, no one wants to buy in an undesirable area. I feel like that's the biggest thing. Get out of your car. I almost bought in Detroit, um, on a duplex that I was obsessed with. Like I was like constantly just like looking at pictures of it. It was through the Detroit Land Bank, and we went to go look at it, and we walked the property, and I was outside of my car, and I was like, wow, I really don't like this. Like this is not good. So I it I for me, I can feel it in my gut. Um, you can tell. And in terms of like inside stuff, I mean, it's hard to tell you what is a good deal or not, without going into specifics. But I mean, at least if you're buying a distressed property, you should probably expect that everything's going to need to get replaced anyway. And if you're playing the long game, what's a few grand? I mean, you're going to make that back in your cash flow. If you're in it to hold the asset, yeah, you're going to have to replace a furnace. You're going to have to replace your electrical lines. I mean, that's just how it goes. Flips, it's making quick money is probably a lot harder for that. I've never been concerned about, you know, replacing a whole HVAC system or because I mean, it just is what it is. I mean, because if it's not going to be now, it's going to be in 5 years. So it's like for me, it's like, what's the difference?
yeah,
So
absolutely. And
long as
it's
you, so long as you feel good and you're passionate about it, and you are comfortable with the place, because you're going to be spending a lot of money on it, and you're going to be there working on it. So if you feel good about it and the numbers make sense for you, what's the matter? Jump at it.
yeah. And I think, I mean, that's a great point. I mean, one of the group that my parents are with the investment, because they needed some guidance. They'd never been in real estate. My dad was an IT guy, right? And that's one of the things that they do is when you buy a single family property, one of the things that they do, it's like a no questions asked.
Mm-hmm.
Unless all your mechanicals are just recently replaced, you go in and that's one of the first things you do. You replace those mechanicals. They're
Yep.
going to fail at some point. And the last thing you want is a phone call at 3 a.m. saying, hey, in January, saying, hey, my furnace just went out
Yeah.
or
See, and
mechanicals.
that's one of the when we first started, I was like so overwhelmed by having to do all that. Because on our first ones, I was like, this is like stupid. Like, why are we like? I don't want any more places that need all new electrical lines or new panel or. But now I'm like, it makes it so easy because it's
Yeah,
like I already
just
know.
do it.
Like, I'm buying the house. I'm like, okay, perfect. Like the one we're doing now. Um, we already knew tear out the walls, go ahead and do it, and let's just get new electrical put in.
Yeah.
Why not? Like
And
it's
one,
like I mean, it's like you kind of have to.
yeah, one thing I love about the way that you're doing this, right, with finding stuff, everything that you're finding is off market. One thing I love about that is that gives you as the buyer the time, if you really want to to say, hey, listen, I have an idea that everything in this house is gonna have to be replaced. Hey,
Hmm.
Mr. Contractor, what are we looking at for cost? Because,
Yep.
that's always the kind of the biggest question in here is that people have. It's like, how do you line up financing? How do you work through the process?
Yeah.
Like you said, if you're buying a distressed property, and if that's the route that you're going to go, understand you're pretty much going to have to replace everything. If you don't have to replace the drywall, you're lucky,
Yep. Oh,
but
absolutely. And mind you, if someone is happens to randomly be watching that, um, if you're buying a house at list, that advice is not for you. Um, please get all that checked. If you're buying a house for cheap and it's a good deal, what does it matter?
yeah,
Like the value adds there. If you're going to hold it as a rental, you probably should anyway.
yeah,
Like it should probably be stuff that's getting replaced.
yeah. And that's, back to the guy here in Grand Rapids that's buying a house right now. He, he knows there's a little bit of equity right now. The crazy thing is his mortgage payment on it is going to be more than what he can collect in rent,
Yep.
but he knows that those equity gains long term, that's his end goal. And
Yep.
that's obviously not the way that you normally want to go about it, but he has other properties that are cash flowing that can make up for it.
Right.
So that the long
Absolutely.
game on it is that area is just really starting to blow up. And so he knows that he's looking into the future. And that's where, being in real estate, having a good realtor partner, realtor friend, or to say, hey, what do you think is going to happen? Obviously, we don't know the future, but we know historically home prices go up.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, so this is another big one. So once you're under contract, offer made, accepted, what does your rehab process look like as far as managing the scope of work that you're doing, getting contractors, and then the timing? How quick are you looking to get this stuff done?
Yeah. Um, it really depends on the house and the deal. Um, I'll give an example of how the I call it the firehouse, how the firehouse went because that was a big lesson learned in how the process should have went and how I did it. Um, so traditionally with that purchase, it should have been to give a little backstory that property was a condemned structure within the city that had a fire block on it as well. Um, so first steps are to get your I we're very good friends with the people at the building department now. Um, just because of how much we talk to them. The first step to get is to get them in there to tell you what you're going to need to do to bring that property up to code, and in that situation, grant a certificate of occupancy. Um, First steps are to get your drywall down. And for that one, we basically started at the studs. Um, and from there you get your mechanicals in. I mean we're talking that one had new electrical panel, new circuits, new wires, everything from there, plumbing, HVAC install, um, get a rough in inspection, and close everything back up, and you're good. Which sounds very easy when I word it like that, and it's not. um,
That sounds very intense thinking about, you're basically rebuilding the home.
yeah. Oh, absolutely. And see, the fun part is when we had bought that, um, yeah, I didn't know we needed permits for any of that.
to rip down
So,
the drywall just for them to inspect it.
yep. So, hard lesson learned. We had to take it all back down. Um,
Oh,
um,
shoot.
yeah. So, a great thing to do, right as you get the place is go ahead and scope your work out. Um, if you don't already know one, befriend an inspector until you can look at things and know what you need to fix. Befriend one and have them go in there with you and have them call things out. Like I said, a lot of times you're going to need a full replumb. You're going to be rewiring the full house, but they might be able to point out things that you wouldn't notice. If you go into the basement, they can point out joists that might be rotten. They can point out a part in the roof that might be sagging or has extra layers on it that you didn't notice before. Um, Things like that. Scope out your project before you just jump right into it. I think that's the biggest thing I wish I didn't do at the beginning was I got so excited just to have an investment property that I went to Lowe's, I think literally that weekend. I was just like, oh, and I started in my head, I'm like, oh, this is the vanity I want. This is the light fixtures I want. Um, this is the flooring I want. And like, I wasn't paying attention to the right things at the beginning, which was just getting the project to where it was or where it needs to be to do all those things. Um, Being realistic with your scope is extremely important. And I'm still figuring that out because I like to jump and just do things immediately and not
The shiny things are fun.
yeah,
The
they
finished product
are.
is what you want. You don't want to have to walk through the shit to get there.
It's true. Yeah. Um, but having a clear plan in place is very important. And there's people to help you with that too. If you don't know how to scope a project, I guarantee you, if you ask your realtor to partner you with someone who can do that, there's someone that provides that service for you.
Yeah.
And they can walk you through the process. Very similar to like a general contractor would do. Someone can provide that for you. There really are resources for everything. And the best part is, as you go through the process, you start to figure it out on your own. Eventually, you won't need that person to tell you that a floor joist is rotten and that you have to replace it, or that your plumbing lines are shot. You kind of just know when you walk the place. You can tell.
Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense. Experience, right?
Yeah.
Experience and not being afraid to ask the questions, not being afraid to ask for help. Yep.
See, and I did not at the beginning. I thought I knew everything, and I did not. I still don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been, everything is such with real estate is such a it's never one size fits all, right? Every house is different. Every deal is different. Even I feel like every loan is different. Like every loan process I've gone through, every cash out refinance, each one is a little bit different. It's never going to be the same,
Yeah.
but they get a little easier over time. And
Yep.
that's I feel like that's
They
the good
follow the
part of it.
same trends. Everyone
Yeah.
is just a little bit unique for sure.
Yeah. But just
Yeah.
going in with a plan in place with a clear mind and knowing what you're getting into is really the biggest thing. And um, another thing I wish I knew at the beginning is real estate is not passive. It is absolutely not passive income like people say it is. Unless you have very deep pockets and you can pay people to do literally everything, but you're probably not watching this if you do. Um, it is not passive. Um, I've done more work than I ever thought I would in my life, but it's extremely rewarding. And, at least here, being able to create value in neighborhoods that need it the most was what makes it worthwhile to me.
Yeah. And that's something a lot of people don't think about, right? They think about the dollar, but they don't always think about that reward, which is cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of following up on that last question there, scope, contractors, things like that. I'm gonna skip a question here. I'll come back to it here. But how did you find your first contractors, right? And kind of how did you determine they were a good fit?
So our first contract, actually, that we're still working with today, um, was through my partner's work. He works at a property management company, and it was someone that was just there painting the walls. And he overheard that we had purchased a place, and he was like, "Oh, I can help you with that." And ended up turning into a whole thing. He's working on getting his license, and um, his skill set has really expanded as we've grown. His skill set has expanded, which is great because I mean, we're almost keeping everything in house now, which is awesome. At least
Yeah,
in terms of like construction type stuff
yeah,
inside and flooring and things like that. It's a major help. Um, if you need someone like that, I think the best thing to do, which I still need to do, is go out and network. Go to investor meetups, real estate, coffee meetups happen literally everywhere around this state.
yeah,
I never go because it never works with my work schedule, but
yeah,
it's so valuable to go to those because the contractors who want to get in that and meet investors are there.
Yeah. Yep.
They're ready to hand you a business card and they're ready to get to work. Um, and I only know that just from being on the internet. Same
Yeah.
thing too. Utilize Facebook groups. Find local investing groups. Like I'm sure there's one for Grand Rapids. I just saw one pop up for Wyoming
Yeah.
on Facebook the other day. A Wyoming real estate investing group,
There's
and
like 10 of them around us. Like every
yeah, and
community has their own.
yep, and if trying to find people, lean on peers, lean on other investors who are going through the exact same thing, and they might have just used somebody for the same exact project you need, and that's been great too, especially on big like HVAC and plumbing and things like that. You know, having a small amount of them to get bids from and line up for jobs is huge. And I mean, you won't find them unless you're in those groups, just because of how tough people's schedules are. I it's Facebook is really a huge resource.
And
Like
realtors. I mean,
everything.
I work with a ton of agents, right?
Yeah.
And which is a blessing for me. Something goes out of my house, and I text about 12 different people. I'm like, hey, I need your best so and so, right? And so this
Yeah.
winter, our furnace was acting up, and it wasn't that it was dead, but it was struggling. And yeah, they're like, yeah, this guy's good. He'll come out, he'll fix it. And I kid you not, I think I spent 2 hours with him on the phone before he even came because I was bound
Mhm.
and determined I was going to fix it myself. And
Yeah.
finally, I was like, you know what, dude, like I make enough money that I can pay you. And truthfully, I
Right.
don't necessarily want to, be dealing with this much more. It sounds like it's probably a little bit out of my scope.
Right.
He came over and I mean, dude, I was expecting, not I was worried worst case scenario, our furnace went out. And I was like, you know what, let's just, see if he can piece something together. And I think by the time that he bought like a $50 part, and I think for
Mhm.
the hour of labor that he was into it, he charged me like $200.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you said you knew so and so. That's good enough for me. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
I'm telling you, man, it's all about just like making the connection. And it even works like online. I mean that's literally how we connected is through, a
through
random Facebook
Facebook.
group.
Yeah,
So they're so valuable to
yeah,
find people through there. I mean, gosh, you can just make a quick post to be like, hey, looking for a plumber that might be available within the next 3 weeks. Who do you guys recommend? And they'll be like, oh, my buddy does that. He's licensed
yeah,
and insured. Here's his number,
yeah,
and it makes it so much easier to
yeah,
just ask instead of like what we had first did was just literally hit Google and like come up with all the huge companies that
yep,
are going to target like first time home buyers,
yeah.
which are not investor friendly. I learned that lesson too. Um,
They squeeze you for
um,
every penny.
correct. And we
Yep.
we have a joke. If they show up with an iPad, like you're fucked. Like
That
you're
sounds
done.
about right. They're making too much money to if they
Yep.
can afford an iPad, it's game over.
Yeah, yeah. If they're doing up a quote on a little touchscreen, yeah, you're done.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, absolutely. Lean on your peers. Lean on Facebook groups. Go to networking events.
yeah.
Find people because it's like you won't find them unless you ask.
Yeah.
Is I
And
mean,
ask for
with
the
what?
warm introduction. I mean, that's a huge thing, right?
Yeah.
Like if it is your friend that has a buddy or your friend's buddy's buddy did it, and they helped you out, be like, hey, can you introduce me? Put us in a
Yep.
group text. And it's amazing how much further that goes.
Absolutely.
So
I agree.
um so jumping back a question, kind of got out of order here, but it actually made more sense in this order. But and you've talked about it a little bit, but are there corners that you'll never cut as far as what you do to a house? And then based on that, how do you stay on budget?
Mechanicals all day.
Yeah,
Um,
I
I
love
will
that.
happily skimp on not putting in butcher block countertops or and opting for like laminate sheets from Home Depot, like the prefabs.
Yeah,
Good. Same thing with the cabinets. Good. I would much rather spend $6,000 replumbing a whole house versus spending an extra 6 grand to make a more attractable kitchen or a more
yeah,
attractive kitchen. I just because like the function is so important, especially when you hold. Um, and I talked about that before. Just like, I mean, essentially, you're future proofing yourself to have less issues and less maintenance over time by just making the bigger investments up front.
absolutely. Again, I love that you say it. That is the golden rule. with my
Yeah.
parents' investing group, and they're a tight knit group, and they're like, no matter what we do, it's mechanicals because
Yeah.
again, like you said, plumbing. Last thing you want, you didn't check the plumbing. Now you got a leak in the basement. You're getting a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning saying, "Hey, I got water gushing out of a
Yep.
pipe." You don't want that phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning. You fix the important stuff, they're not going to call you because you have a chip in your countertop or your cabinet, came unscrewed. They're not going to call you at 3 o'clock in the morning for that if you're
Absolutely.
holding.
And I feel like there's even I mean, as long as it fits into your numbers, I mean, there's a huge value add for doing that for flips. I feel like
Yeah,
too. I mean, like new plumbing, new electrical, new stuff. First time home buyers do not want to deal with stuff.
yeah,
Want to figure it out. And if an inspector goes with them, which they will,
yeah.
um, a father figure is going to go with them. They will, and they're going to show up and they're going to scrutinize every little thing in that house.
And the
The
father
more
figure might be worse.
I'm telling you, man, the more you future proof it, I mean, the better off you are.
Yeah,
And so long as the numbers work, of course. I mean, like
right.
everything's a numbers game at the end of the day. But I, gosh, for flips especially, I feel like that would be such a huge thing to
Yeah,
be able to just fit that into everyone and just not worry about it coming up on an inspection would probably be
yeah, yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, because I mean, you make a good point, right? When you go to sell it on a true flip, when you go to sell it, and you got that inspector walking through the house, and they're like, "Hey, listen, this furnace is 20 years old,"
Yep.
and you're like, "That's 5 years past the average."
Yeah.
They're gonna be like, "Well, then I want concessions for you to fix that. If you
Yep.
just did in the first place, who cares?
Right.
If you built
Absolutely.
that
And
into your
then,
budget in the first place, who cares?"
yep. If you build in your budget, and you price it appropriately. I mean, there might be pushback, but I mean, shoot, at that point, it's just a waiting game for someone to find the right place.
Yeah. Last question, and this is a question I love asking other professionals in the industry, just because I think this is the one that drives a lot of things home for people. And you talked about a few lessons that you've learned, but if you were to say the biggest either rule that you have for yourself or lesson that you've learned, what's the biggest rule or lesson that's had the most impact on your success?
Biggest lesson learned is do things right the first time. That way you don't spend money on it later. Going
The
right
budget,
back
man.
to, yep, going right
Don't
back
put
to,
drywall up to rip it down.
yeah, don't install new mechanicals and put drywall up over them to learn that you needed a rough-in inspection 3 months later. Um, Costly, but do your homework up front, know exactly what you're getting into before you even start, and you should be golden. So long as you have a plan in place, especially if you're dealing with such high value things, it's not smart to be like willy-nilly about it. And
Yeah.
just, I mean, I'm all about figuring things out as you go, but you need some form of plan, especially with real estate. There's too much liability, too much stuff can happen in a short amount of time, and you need your ducks in a row.
Yeah.
And one more thing I'll add to that too, especially if you are looking to long hold like me, live in your means. Um, don't overextend yourself, because if you overextend yourself, you might price yourself out of a deal.
Yeah.
You never know what'll come on the market that you want. And, or if you're holding a property and you need to refinance it later, you might fuck yourself over.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, and that depends on your income and everything. I make a very modest income from a W-2 job, so I know better not to go buy a brand new car for $50,000. That's going to completely destroy my DTI,
Yep.
because I know I have to refinance these things to keep growing.
Yeah.
And eventually, sure, yeah, eventually I'll be able to afford one, but can I right now? No, nor do I want to. Like
Right.
I'm more focused on making sure that I can afford these places and take out the loans that I need to do to keep
Yeah.
growing.
Yeah. And that's where, using some of those unique financing, right? Like the DSCRs, for your even cash out DSCR to pull cash
Yeah.
out. I was talking to another investor the other day, and one thing that a lot of people don't think about is leveraging money on your properties. And you
Mm-hmm.
talk about the liability that comes with real estate, and especially being a landlord, right? Let's say somebody
Yeah.
gets hurt on your property, and yeah, you got your insurance coverage, but maybe suing you for a boatload more.
Yeah.
If you can't pull any more cash out of your property, they can't come after you for any more cash. You're like, hey, I've got my insurance payout. I can't cash out any more property on my house.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep. So there's a lot of real estate investors that are like, no, like I am fully capped at
Wow.
what I'm pulling. Yeah, I keep like there's a lot of real estate investors I talk to that are, and don't hold me to it, right? Like I'm not an attorney, but I've
Sure, sure,
heard
sure.
that,
Yeah, yeah.
I've heard that so many times that it's like, yeah, if I can find a place that'll let me do a 90% cash out, I'm doing it. If I
Yeah.
find a place that, and most of the time the 90% cash outs, those are going to be looking at HELOCs more than anything on investment
Sure.
properties. But the DSCRs, you can pull up to 85% cash out. And it's like, so, that way, if somebody does try to come take more money off of me, this house is in LLC. All of my homes in this LLC. Like if they try to come after the LLC has no money
Yeah.
because I've borrowed every penny that I can out of that house. And all I did is went and bought a new one,
Right.
put it in the LLC, borrowed as much money as I could out of that house, put it in a new one. And
Yep.
that's kind of that process. And that goes back to that Burr method, right? Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, because the DSCR loan is not based on Chris's income. It's based on the house's income. Buy, renovate. We've got a fix and flip product for the renovation loan. Rent. Now you're making income on the property. Refinance with a DSCR loan, which is basically saying, hey, my rental income is more money than my mortgage payment. That's all DSCR is. It's not based on Chris's income.
Hmm.
And then reinvest. Go do it again. Don't don't leave yourself open to that liability because there's a lot of it. So,
Yep.
well, that
Absolutely.
puts us just over an hour of recording and talking. Um, Stacy, do you have any more questions? Thanks again, man, a ton for coming today. If
No, that
Oh,
was great. Thanks,
yeah.
Chris. I appreciate it. And Mike, it was really
yeah,
nice meeting
Absolutely.
you both, and it's good information. Definitely gives me some stuff to think about. And as a newer agent, I definitely need to start reaching out more and putting my name out there more. And I know that for a fact. I'm also a notary, so I'm trying to get that business up too.
Nice.
And so I need to start meeting more people so I can make money
yeah.
doing that and
Yeah.
And
try.
Stacy, if you have any questions, there's a big real estate investing group here in Grand Rapids. I think like
Okay.
once a month they do breakfast together.
Oh, okay.
Um, More than happy. I'd have to look it up again. I truthfully can't remember what it is. But I mean they're big enough. They have a website, but they're small enough that they're it's a little weird because there's kind of some of that good old boy feel to it.
Mm.
But there's always opportunity, right?
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
and you just never know. So if you're interested, you've got me. I think you've got me on Facebook.
Yep.
Got my email, whatever it is. Feel free to reach out, and I'd be happy to put you in touch. At least hopefully point you in the right direction.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I have my mother-in-law's home we're gonna put on the market in St. Joseph, Michigan, and I want to have some investor information in my back pocket just in case we have to go that route if we can't
Yeah,
sell it. But hoping we can sell it. But yeah, it would be really nice to have those, have some hellos in that world. So
yeah.
thank you.
Well,
Appreciate it. Thanks so
yeah,
much, Chris.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks
absolutely.
a
And I was gonna
ton.
say, if you think of anything else, or if you want any direction, I feel free to shoot me an email or text or anything. I'm happy to give you my contact information.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, awesome. I'll stop the recording here. Thanks again, Chris, a ton for coming on. I know there's a lot of people that were bummed. This is actually probably one of the few webinars that I've done that people will go back and watch.
Sure. Yeah.
So, because there was a lot of people that are interested. I've done a number of these and they're like, oh, it's just another training, just another training. No, this is something people wanted to hear about, man. So I really do appreciate it.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and maybe we'll have to do this again, down the road and just give
Yeah,
give people an update, right? See, hey,
sure.
here's a few more things that I've done. Hey, check this out. I learned a new trick. So
Sure. Absolutely.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.